Morning. She settled into a breaststroke. She tried to keep up a good pace. Not so fast that it was tiring, but not so slow that she got nowhere in the swells, which were strong. Sometimes she dipped her head under water for a few strokes, tucking her chin to her chest into proper breaststroke form to loosen her neck muscles. But mostly she kept her head above water and her eyes focused on the distant light that was guiding her. Better to swim with her head up, declaring her allegiance to the surface. Her entire world came to this, she thought. If she stayed above water, she would live. When she did put her face into the water, she could feel the ocean all around her, an enormous, undulating nothingness around her small body, a black nothingness that wanted to swallow her. No, it's not nothingness at all, Emily said out loud about the ocean. It's worse than that. It's the opposite of nothingness. It was an entire world of its own, teeming with life, a world in which humans were unfit, poorly evolved, and laughably out of place. She knew the surface of the earth was two-thirds water, and at that moment she felt like she was drifting to the middle of those two-thirds, swimming without fins and without gills. She was an oxygen-dependent mammal, a hairless, gangly ape, plopped into an environment that had every advantage over her. "Stop it, Emily," she said out loud. It was nice to hear her voice, almost like talking to someone real. "You'll drag yourself down with bad thoughts." So what was a good thought in this situation? "Yeah, what's good?" she said. "Here's something good. You know how to swim," she answered herself. She took a few strokes, then laughed out loud. "That's really pitiful. Is that all you can think of? You know how to swim? That's like saying you're not dead." Well, it was true, come to think of it. She wasn't dead. And that was a good thing. That was maybe the best thing of all. The worst case would be death. "Maybe not," she said thoughtfully. "Maybe suffering would be worse. And I'm not suffering, not really. Yes, things could be worse." Stopped and peered at her watch, waiting for her eyes to adjust to the light. It was midnight, not even close to dawn. She wanted to sleep. She had never stayed up all night. The closest she had come to staying awake all night was the plane trip from the States to Malaysia a year and a half ago. She had found it hard to sleep on the plane, even though she knew she should, to try to get a jump on the time change. When they landed, her mother had said it would be morning in Malaysia and they would have to take a smaller plane to Medan and then a bus to Banda Aceh. It would be a long day. So Emily had spent several hours with her eyes closed, restlessly adjusting herself in her seat, trying unsuccessfully to sleep. The more she had tried, the more agitated she became that she wasn't sleeping, until it was hopeless. "It's because I hated the idea of coming to Southeast Asia. I hated leaving home. That's why I couldn't sleep," Emily said out loud to the silent ocean. "I was angry, and I couldn't sleep." Now, nearly 2 years later, she must still be angry, she realized. If she had never come to terms with it, it wouldn't have gotten on the wait. If she had ever come to terms with it, she wouldn't have gotten on the ferry, and she wouldn't be here in the ocean this very minute. She remembered her first week in Banda Aceh and frowned. She put her face in the water and stretched her arms out in front of her, as far as they would go, as if she could reach into the memory and brush it away with the tips of her fingers. She blew out big, soft bubbles from her mouth and felt them burst along the skin of her neck and down the inside of her camisole as she glided through the water. The first thing she had noticed when she got to Banda Aceh was how hot she was all the time. Not the kind of hot that she enjoyed in the summer outside Boston, where the air smelled of baking pine needles, and she played until the sweat trickled down around her eyebrows to sting the outer corners of her eyes. On those summer days, she felt alive and glistening, barefoot and barely dressed in shorts and a bathing suit. When she tired of the heat, she would fling herself onto the lawn under the cool sprinkler and get rained on the bright sun, or she would retreat to the shade of the woods at the end of the street to pick wild blueberries. No, on Sumatra, the heat was wet and crushing and inescapable. It made her feel as if she were walking, rotting corpse. There was no better way to describe it. It was something that she became accustomed to slowly, but at first it sucked away her energy. The moistness enveloped her and seeped into every crevice of her body, between her legs, under her arms. Cornstarch and powder provided only temporary relief. When she was caught in a tropical downpour, which seemed to happen almost every day, the steam rose off her drenched body and clothes as if she were an enormous block of dry ice, evaporating it into thick air around her. Oh, we've only got a page till the chapter. I'll finish. She had turned 13 soon after she arrived. On her birthday, she had noticed red patches on her chest. It wasn't the prickly heat that she got whenever she neglected to use her cornstarch. These patches were inflamed, itchy little spirals. It was ringworm. She cried inconsolably. Worms under her skin. It's prehistoric here. It's third world. It's not worms, her father said. That's an unfortunate misnomer because of the way the skin lesion is shaped. It's a fungal infection. We can take care of it with a simple antifungal cream. Lesions, skin lesions, she wailed. A fungus is a mushroom. Humans shouldn't live in climates where mushrooms grow in your skin. Her parents had chuckled together at the outburst. At the time she had thought, was this really funny to them, that their baby was being infected in this godforsaken sweatbox? She remembered how a burning balloon of anger had swelled inside her stomach and chest, how she had stormed into her makeshift bedroom with a fiery urge to slam a door that was not there. Instead, the balloon of fire in her chest burst open and flames licked up her neck and head, and she fell face down on her bed and sobbed until dusk. Then, drained and pale, with a raw throat and swollen eyelids, she sat down at her birthday supper. Emily's eyes focused on the horizon again. She had been swimming off course and was no longer heading toward the light. She shook her head and blinked. She was tired and daydreaming too much. She'd have to put some effort into staying awake, into concentrating at the task at hand. Without allowing the whole desperate situation to get to her, she had to follow that light. That's the end of chapter 13.